This is Chris Lee of Southeastern 14 here to talk SEC baseball action from Good Friday, April the 7th. We had 9 games. We had rain playing havoc with a lot of the scheduling across the country that left its mark in the SEC. And so we had some uneven schedules, but let's get right into it. The big game of the day, I suppose, was South Carolina blowing a late lead and losing 8-7 to LSU. Now, the big story in this game really wasn't the result, in my opinion. It is Garrett Edwards of LSU, maybe LSU's best reliever. He left the game holding his elbow. Garrett Edwards has been sensational. He's had a .81 ERA in 22 and a third innings. Now, Chase Shores, who is also out for an indefinite period of time, he's got a 1.96 ERA in 18 and a third innings. He's been out a couple of weeks, no timetable on the return. I'll be honest. I watched Garrett Edwards get hurt. He grabbed his elbow. Didn't look good. I don't want to speculate, but a lot of times that doesn't have a good ending. We'll see where that goes for LSU. Hopefully I'm wrong. But the story, I think, of the day for LSU, Griffin Herring gave LSU 3 scoreless innings in relief. That allowed the Tigers to catch up, and LSU got a much-needed win in that one. I thought Carolina was going to win that game. It was up, I think, 7-2. 7-3 is what it was actually. But Gavin Dugas hit a 3-run home run off South Carolina's Kate Austin, who'd been really good. For South Carolina, Chris Veach, before that, had been unhittable with his changeup, and I thought Carolina was going to coast. But LSU's lineup is just so good. Hard to hold them down so long. Even if Dylan Cruz was held hitless, which he was, but Cruz still reached base a couple of times. Anyway, LSU got a much-needed win, and South Carolina dropped to 9-2, and now in third place in an SEC East that is just winning games one after another. That included what Florida did in Knoxville. Florida's now taken the series after a 6-1 win on Thursday night. It goes 9-3 over the Vols on Friday. And I think the big takeaway from this game, it is time to be concerned about Chase Burns. He's just not been very good lately. He walked 4. He gave up 3 home runs. He allowed 7 runs. I think all those were earned in 3 and a third innings. It was the usual suspects for Florida. Wyatt Langford, Jac Caglianone, Josh Rivera all hit home runs, and Colby Halter added 1-2. Now, maybe the biggest story for Florida, Hurston Waldrep, their fine number 2 starter, who transferred from Southern Miss, was much better this week. He gave up 3 earned in 7 innings, struck out 9, walked 3. I think he walked 6 a week ago. So Hurston Waldrep, that rotation had just really been scuffling lately. So if you are Kevin O'Sullivan, I think you're really happy about that result. Not just the fact that you scored 9 runs on Chase Burns in Tennessee, but the fact that your pitching had a little bit of a get-right game. For Tennessee, Zane Denton, the third baseman who transferred from Alabama, has played exceptionally well lately. That continued on Friday when he hit a home run. Florida now a game behind Vandy. Tennessee is 6 back in the East. Who would have imagined that heading into the season? Speaking of Vandy, the Commodores were the lone unbeaten team in the league, had a lead going into the 9th, and couldn't hold it. Sam Laboki gave up 4 straight hard-hit singles with 1 out. Matt Garcia had a 2 RBI single through first that ended the game and walked off the Commodores. Ty Wilmsmeyer had not homered all year, is now hit 2 in 2 days. Missouri has really had to mix up its pitching and bring guys out of the bullpen to start. You saw that on Friday. Rorik Maltrud, who's been pitching out of the bullpen, started that game and I think gave them 7. Zach Franklin, who's closed and had a really high strikeout rate. He is a 6th-year guy from Western Carolina. Those two combined to kind of hold Vandy down. Vandy let the bases loaded the last 2 innings, and Missouri capitalized, whereas the Commodores did not. These have been 2 one-run games now, and these teams have split. I think if you're Missouri, your hopes after these first 2 games, even if you lose the Saturday game to Vandy, with all the injuries and everything, you wondered if Missouri could continue to compete and the losing streak would drag them down. I think maybe we've got our answer in the first 2 games. Okay, Kentucky right on Vanderbilt's tail. That game was scoreless, I want to say, to the 5th or 6th inning. Jaden Woods for Georgia was great, as he has been from time to time, their fine starting pitcher. But has been the case all year, Georgia's bullpen blew it. Kentucky got 3 in the 7th, 3 in the ninth, 1 in the eighth. Georgia walked 9 guys, and 6 of those came in the last 3 innings, again from the bullpen. Not really a lot of offensive standouts for Kentucky, more of a balanced thing. It's what the Cats have done. Ryan Waldschmidt had 3 hits. I guess for Kentucky, Darren Williams, who's carried that team, that's not fair. Kentucky's had a lot of good pitching, but Darren Williams has been about as good as the Cats have had. He gives up 4 runs, but Logan Martin and Mason Moore combined for 5 scoreless. For Georgia now 1-9. That's the worst mark in the league. Charlie Condon, their fine freshman, who's a redshirt, had another home run. Kentucky, by the way, remains the number 1 RPI team in the country following this one. We had a doubleheader split in in Ole Miss and Ole Miss. Arkansas was up 9-0 after 6 and coasted to an 11-2 win in Game 1. Arkansas's Hunter Hollan had maybe the best pitching performance of the weekend or close to it. He gives them 6 shutout innings over a really good Ole Miss lineup. Brady Slavens had a grand slam in the middle innings to break that one open. Arkansas had 15 hits. Slavens had 3 of those, and Caleb Colley also homered for the Razorbacks, who are now tied for first with LSU. Despite dropping the second game, the Rebels got what the Rebels really needed. That was a good start from Indianapolis transfer Xavier Rivas, who went 6, struck out 7, gave up 2 runs. Tulane transfer Ethan Lejay homered, drove in 4. Ole Miss touched Hagen Smith for 4 runs in 5 innings. For the Razorbacks, Peyton Stovall homered and had 3 hits. And one of the big pitching stories of the day was in Tuscaloosa, where Alabama wins over Mississippi State 11-1. Luke Holman goes 5 2/3 and allows 1 run, and the bullpen shuts out a good hitting Bulldog lineup from there. Holman's had a great year. He lowers his ERA to 2.20. Alabama got 5 in 2 innings off Durangelo Ciente. I know I botched his name. He's their switch pitcher. I always get it wrong. I think it's Saint-Ja, something like that. In any case, he's the guy who gave up 5 runs in 2 innings. State just cannot get consistent starting pitching. For the Tide, catcher Dominic Tamez homered twice, drove in 4. Ed Johnson homered, drove in 3. Alabama really needed this one and got to 4-7. If the Crimson Tide can get to 5-7, that puts them back in a pretty good spot for the NCAA tournament. Elsewhere in the Yellowhammer State, Auburn splits a doubleheader with Texas A&M in a series where pitching has been at a premium. Auburn wins the opener 10-9. It gets 5 in the first off A&M starter Justin Lampkin, who gave up 7 in 2 innings. A&M has really had trouble trying to find consistent starting pitching. That was kind of a theme this weekend. Has been a theme all year. Nobody really pitched well in this game except for Matt Dillard, who went 3 scoreless for the Aggies. Cooper McMurray was the offensive standout. In the first game, he had 2 home runs for Auburn. Okay, in the second game, Auburn's Tommy Sheehan, the Notre Dame transfer, couldn't get through the first inning, and boy, that really set the tone in this one. A&M had a balanced attack, 14 hits, 12 walks. Jack Moss and Austin Bose reached base 4 times each. Brad Rudis, Brandon Garcia, Will Johnson held Auburn scoreless over the last 6 innings. So again, best pitching seems to be coming from the bullpen there for the Aggies, at least this weekend. A&M really needed this one. It is now up to 5-7 on the year. Okay, we will have more baseball on Saturday, and I believe that Georgia and Kentucky will wrap up their series on Sunday. That should be the lone Sunday game. Weather changes things. Games are sometimes mixed up and moved up and that kind of thing. But in any case, we will have your recaps of all the SEC action this weekend. Best way to catch everything, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps our analytics and helps us get noticed. We'll be back with power rankings next week with the midweek notebook show where we take a deep dive into stats. Anyway, I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.